Hi everybody, welcome back to Real Estate Investing Adventures. Why? Because real estate is fun and it always should be an adventure. If you're a return guest, welcome back. If you're new to my channel, who the heck am I? My name's Joe Jurek and I'm a real estate investor. I have the ability to travel all over the country and I work with people just like you getting started in real estate or trying to take their real estate investing to the next level. Well, I appreciate you coming back to the A through Z series on how to get a deal done, how to do a deal. If you haven't watched the other videos, make sure you get caught up with it. What am I going to talk about in this video? The letter U. Yes, U, okay? U for utilities. Often when we look at real estate, you may or may not think about the utilities, and the utilities are critical. And there's a number of things we're going to talk about, golden nuggets, during the video and hopefully a few at the end, so stay tuned throughout the whole video. But anytime you're looking at purchasing a property, you have to think about the utilities. Number one, how old are they? And number two, what do you need to do if you purchase a property to do your due diligence and kind of get ready for a closing? Looking at utilities, we often think about gas, electric, and water. The first thing I'll tell you to get ready for the closing, make sure you have a transition date if the utilities are currently on to get them transferred into your name rather than turned off, and then you got to wait there all day or half a day to not only get them turned on, but there may be a turn-on fee to do that. So when you make the offer, if the utilities are on, make sure you put into the offer you want to be able to transfer utilities into your name the day of closing, and for the current owner to schedule final readings the day before closing. Now, looking at utilities such are things of like gas and electric, that's going to stay with the owner. So if the owner didn't pay it, that's going to follow them. But here's the thing. Normally, sewer cost and water cost is going to stay with the property. Have I bought properties that had a really high water bill? Absolutely. Now, some parts of the country, water is a lot more than other parts of the country, but here's the thing. Why pay for a bill that you shouldn't be paying for anyway? So as a rule of thumb, I would always find out who the utility providers are in your area where you're looking to purchase the home. I would then inquire if you can do a transfer of service into your name or your company name, however you're going to hold the property. And I would inquire about any deposits that are required, and if so, how much, and the billing process, how that's going to work. Never, ever go to a closing and not make sure you understand about what utilities were paid and how they're going to be transferred, because it's only going to slow you down with that process of that property. I was going to close on a property one time and the seller said, oh yeah, I'll get the water bill paid, I'll get it paid, I'll get it paid. I called a week ahead of time, they didn't. I called 3 days ahead of time, they didn't. I called day of closing, they didn't. And I finally called the realtor and I said, look, if they don't pay this water bill, and I think it was, significant, like $400 or $500, I'm not going to close. So they have two choices. Either they credit me at closing for that water bill amount, or they bring a paid bill that they paid it. Because sometimes people think, they'll just forget about it, who cares? But, really, every dollar adds up, and we're just trying to be fair. We're not trying to ask for anything we shouldn't be asking for. Now, if you purchase a property that has a well and you don't have, city water, I would highly encourage you, if you're going to buy that property, live in, rent, flip, to get that well tested, to make sure the well is adequate to service the property as well as the water is good. There's a lot of companies out there that can do well testing. The other thing, if you don't have city sewer, what would I encourage you to do? Say you have a septic tank, I would definitely spend the money and have a septic company come out and pump out the tank and inspect it to make sure that it's working and functioning as it should. It's a small cost to pay even if you didn't do the deal compared to doing the deal and finding that you have septic issues. I can't tell you how many times I'm driving in neighborhoods and there's septic tanks and they have an issue, and then people are digging up a side yard, a backyard, a front yard, and trying to take care of the septic issue that can be very expensive. So make sure you look into that. Besides, getting ready for closing and getting the utilities transferred, another thing with utilities would be before you buy the home, not that I want to make you an expert electrician or anything like that or plumber, but make sure you know enough that I say to be dangerous, okay? If you don't know, get the experts in there to check it out, but every property has electrical service coming in. And when it comes in, the wire, does it go underneath the roofing or on top of the roofing? A lot of times you see an arm and then the wiring going in. That's called the weatherhead. A lot of times electrical service has to be at least 10 feet off the ground or higher. So if there's a deck there, it could be a problem. If it's under 10 feet with some of these older homes, it could be a problem. And why I bring it up, it's just one more thing that you may have to do to bring the property up to code. Depending on where you are in the country too, most houses will have 100 amp or 200 amp service. If you don't have at least 100 amp, it can be an issue. So you have to go look at the electrical box, we call it circuit breaker box, and see, does it have a main shutoff in there? Does it say 100 on there, 200 on there? How many breakers are in there? If it's only 60 amp and there's fuses in there, the round fuses that you put in, you're gonna have to get that updated. The other thing to look for is when you look at the outlets in the home, does it only have 2 prongs or does it have the 3, one for grounding? You want to make sure that the electric is grounded, and 3 prongs will usually show that, but I have seen homes that have had 3-prong outlets and there wasn't any grounding for the electric. So that's something an electrician or a home inspector can show you what to look for. Some of the things I've learned over the years, I've learned from people at a home improvement store, or when a home inspector comes to kind of follow them through the property, ask specific questions that would better help me look at future properties. The other thing I would tell you, if you're in a part of the country where they have a basement, you can see a lot of how the electric and the plumbing and everything is run, usually in the basement area. If there's no basement, it makes it a little harder, but I would still look under sinks to see, is it plastic like PVC piping? Do they use copper piping for the water coming in? Do they use a drain if it's an old house with old galvanized type of piping? If the water's on, you can turn on and the sink to see water pressure, hot and cold. Okay, a good idea is always to check the water heater as well, see how new that is. It usually has a year on it. When I look at the bathrooms, can you turn on the water in the tub, turn on the water in the sink, and then flush the toilet to see how good not only the water pressure is, but also how quickly does it drain? If you're looking at a house in the winter time, is the furnace on or not on? Always check out the furnace. If you're looking at a property in the summertime or a hot time of the year, make sure they have central air conditioning, which is always a benefit. If they don't, maybe you're in a part of the country where you got a nice breeze, like the trade winds of Hawaii. If you don't have a nice breeze or the house can't stay cool, that could be an issue. People want to make sure they have an adequate air conditioner and adequate heating to make sure that they're comfortable. So as you look at utilities, a few recaps are, do your due diligence when looking at the home. If you're not sure what you're looking at, get the people out there that know what they're doing to have it inspected for you. Then at closing, get ready to make sure you get the utilities transferred and you get going right away. Because part of the issue is when people want to do a rental property or a flip, I'll give you an example. We were buying a property up north. I live in Florida, another beautiful day here, but we were buying a property up north and they didn't have the meters in, the gas meter and the electrical meter. Well, one individual came out from the company and said, well, we're looking at the meters, but we can't get to them because there's too much snow in the yard. One, we want the snow shoveled. So, okay, we send somebody there to shovel the snow through the grass. I'm not talking about the sidewalk. The meters were around the side of the house. They wanted that shoveled. So we shoveled it. So first person came out there and said, okay, we can install it, but it's going to be 2 weeks out. Then after we install it, somebody else has to come in, check it, and then we can go ahead and go from there. The problem was that whole process took us over a month. Now, granted, the weather was a little bit cold and nasty. It was wintertime, but If you're delayed a month and that house is sitting, you're incurring expenses that aren't being covered. Every day, the golden nugget here is every day that house sits and you don't rent it, it's costing you money. Every day you can't list that property on the market to sell, it's costing you money. So, in the letter T, we talked about timeline. Timeline isn't only as important for doing a deal, it's also important for doing the flip. And part of timeline is making sure that you get in, get out, get the house on the market to get it rented or get it sold, because things can hold you up like utilities, contractors, things of that nature. The better you manage the process, the more money you're gonna make. The more you control your budget, the more money you'll make. The more you control your timelines, the more money you'll make. And what I wanna tell you, don't leave any money on the table, no matter how insignificant it might seem at the time, because I'll tell you, it really adds up after time. And if you can kind of have a checklist of what you need to do prior to closing, and there's a YouTube video on that I did, so make sure you watch it, that'll help you out. So get out there, make it happen, start living your dream, okay? Make those dreams a reality. Take care, believe and achieve. Bye-bye.
Do it now. Believe and achieve. Take care.